Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern. Join me as I invite experts and friends to discuss a range of topics, from the factual and practical to the mystical and magical. Consider this your virtual happy hour filled with lively, authentic, and meaningful conversations meant to inform, inspire, and ignite your curiosity. Whether you are very real or super woo, this podcast is just for you. Welcome to The Real and the Woo. I'm your host, Lauri Stern. I am back with my friend and astrologer, Lisa Hagenbuch. Hello, Lisa.
Hello, Lauri and everyone. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so grateful that you are coming on now because there is a lot happening all around us. And so I wanted to
There's
bring
a
Lisa
lot
on
happening.
because this will air just before February 17th, which is, if you've been following anything that I've been creating on Substack and in my newsletters, I've had a 5-part series about the transition between 2025 as the year of the snake and 2026 as the year of the horse, which specifically begins on the 17th. And so I just wanted Lisa to explain to everybody out there how to connect with this energy, what to maybe look forward to, what to watch out for, and anything else you'd like to explain.
Hi. Yeah, where to begin? There's a lot going on in 2026. I guess I'm going to actually kind of give it some context because we're leaving the year of the wood snake, which is about kind of shedding what no longer serves us. And we're moving into the year of the fire horse, which is all about new beginnings and forward motion and accelerated forward motion. And I think 2026 is also significant from the standpoint numerologically. It is a 1 year. So we went from wrapping up, the numbers go from 1 to 9. And so 2026 is a 1 year, which that really resonates well with the fire horse energy. Because one in the zodiac, and our natural zodiac, is the house of Aries and Mars, and that is all about taking the action that you desire. And so we kind of started out the gate right away, did a chart for the beginning of the year, and we had the sun between Venus and Mars. And I think we've been talking a lot about Venus and Mars and creation energy. And then in January, we had a lot of solar activity, solar flares. The Schumann resonance spiked during this time between.
Yeah. Were you exhausted or energized?
Oh, well, both, because I'm going through a lot of personal changes in my life. And so I think I was all of the feelings, I think, during that time, big changes for me. So I have an Aries moon. I just decided to jump on that horse early, I guess. And so, because they call the Schumann resonance like the heartbeat of the planet, right? It is a lot about stepping into the new beginnings that you desire to manifest in your life. So that activity really spiked around January 18 through the 21st. There were all these spikes in the Schumann resonance with all of the solar flares and coronal ejections and all of that. And so that was the January new moon. So then we went from that new moon, which had the stellium in Capricorn. So I'm going to put a pin in
everybody what a stellium is. Yeah.
Sorry. A stellium is a concentration of planets. So we had the moon and the sun and Mercury and Mars. They were all in Capricorn. Now that's ruled by the planet Saturn. That's going to become important here in a minute. So we had that new moon. And then we're stepping into February energy, which there's so much going on in February because we have our first eclipse of the year. It's going to be, there'll be another new moon. That's going to be on the 17th. That's the date that the Chinese zodiac turns into the horse. And then on February 20th, we're going to have a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. I don't know if you've written about that or talked about that. So,
No, not yet. I'm hearing a
yeah,
lot about it though, so I'd love to hear from you why that's important.
yeah, it's really significant because we started off the year, like I told you, with that concentration of energy in Capricorn. Now that's ruled by Saturn. And then Saturn is about work, responsibility, duty, structure. And so that will be exactly at the same point that the planet Neptune is going to be at on February 20th.
Mm.
And the really significant part of that, and I think it ties directly back to the fire horse energy. That's very Aries energy. So this conjunction is at 0 degrees of Aries, which is the beginning point of the natural zodiac. It's like the starting point. A lot of astrologers will put that point in everybody's chart because it's like kind of where the natural wheel begins. In our recorded history, I think you have to go back to like 700 BC, the last time it was at that point, at 0 degrees. So it is really amplifying the fact that we are in this phase of new beginnings, new
Mhm.
structures. And if you combine the energy of Neptune, Neptune has a lot to do with what your dreams, your spirituality, creativity, intuition. It's a new beginning point of what you really desire to create. It's very creation energy. What do we want to create and how do we want to structure it? And it's all kind of getting kicked off this month.
And so, for everybody out there, into astrology or not, if you're listening to this, you probably are. I had a guest on, Joy Houlihan. We swapped, and I can't remember if it was I said this on her show or I said it when she was on mine. But we have explanations for things, and I sometimes feel like we use things as excuses, right? So it's fun to say, "Oh,
Mm,
the student
hmm.
residence, and I'm being a bitch today, or I'm so exhausted today because of the moon or the stars, whatever." Yes, and also you might be getting sick or you might just be a bitch or you might be, like, really unhappy for some reason, and it's making you
Yeah.
feel icky. But I love the layer of astrology to which we can guide ourselves a little more with a little more information and
Yeah.
empowerment, right? And,
Yeah. It's archetypal.
yeah, yeah, and so I just love the layer that you add too because you're also intuitive and you have other modalities that you bring into your practice. So continue.
Yeah, I was saying astrology is archetypal, right? Just like numerology is archetypal. So it's really a great container or context to put in. And I really don't feel like we do things because the planets are in a certain spot. But what I believe is that they provide us the potential to create then with them what we desire in our life. So it's about being conscious of what the energy is and then also how you want to harness it and how you want to direct it, how you want to focus it.
Which is such a
And
great way to look at the fire horse because, you literally put a harness
mhm,
on a horse and learn
yeah,
how to ride. And so we're either, galloped away and we're just holding on for dear life, or we learn how to navigate all around the horse, talk to the horse, be one with the horse. So the ride
yeah,
becomes more comfortable at the gait and pace we choose. And that's what I wrote about is getting first comfortable in that starting gate because that alone is confining and scary and energizing, right? We know a race is going to
hmm,
start, but learning how to stay there until the bell goes off. And then once the race
yeah,
begins, do we come out full sprint? Do we crawl? Do we? So that to me is what this astrology also assists with is helping us learn and discern the proper gait, which is GAIT, the cadence
yeah,
for
mhm,
how we're going to move.
yeah. And I think it's a lot. I mean, I think this doesn't all unfold on February 20th. But I do feel like it's really a great day to get your intentions
Mm.
together because it's going to unfold over time. If you look at just the fact that we're in a 1 year, it's going to be amplified over the course of the next 9 years, a lot of what you start this year. So you're right. I think that this is where you have to take all these collective energies. I always say you have to put them into your chart because at times you're going to get activated by something else that might speed it along. And then you might get activated by something like, okay, let's slow this down or let's go into a retrograde over that point and just give you some more time to reflect and process because it is really important. It's like you're structuring your frequency. Is a great way to look at the Saturn Neptune conjunction because Neptune would be your frequency, your vibration, and Saturn would be about structuring it. So you want to
So
do
would
it
you say
intentionally.
so because Neptune's water, right? Neptune is water
Yeah,
element,
it rules Pisces, which is water and
and Saturn obviously is a planet, so it's very like structure. It's more earthy. So when you combine the two, it's how
yes,
to navigate, from ground to fluidity and everything in between.
exactly. Yeah, it's to me, it's kind of like, and I kind of relate it also to the chakra system because I know that's
Well, thank
your
you.
expertise. Yeah, you're welcome. Neptune is most associated with the third eye chakra. And then Saturn is most associated with the throat, but to me it's also because it's very grounded. I mean, Mars is more the root chakra, but Saturn can be that as well. And so I do think it is about solar, really the amplified solar activity. The sun is connected to the heart. So
I love that.
if,
We're in the
yeah,
heart chakra week this week before this comes out, but I often use the image
yeah,
of just shining your heart out like rays of the sun, although solar plexus is yellow.
right.
But the heart
Yeah.
chakra really, as the bridge and the connector, behaves like the sun. It can warm us and it can cool us down,
Hmm.
if there's a shadow side of it
Hmm.
too, just like anything. So I love that imagery.
Yeah, because this solar eclipse is in Aquarius. And, the opposite sign is Leo. Leo is associated with the sun and ruled by the sun, and it's connected to the heart. So if you think about the heart that got activated, and then you connect that to Neptune, your third eye chakra, in the middle is your throat, Saturn. So this is a year of being really intentional about what you speak because what I've been hearing from most people in this field, what we speak this year, the universe is going to show what we're in alignment to, and it's going to bring it to us very quickly. Kind of like I think of the fire horse image. It's like, oh, you spoke that. That's what you're aligned with. This is what you desire. Boom, here it is. So make sure you're creating what you desire to create and don't attract into your life anything that doesn't come from you, from your heart, what you desire. So it's a lot about don't go along just with the culture, your parents. We're in a reset. We're at the zero cardinal point, we can kind of build a new foundations. We are so been programmed with a lot of cultural societal stuff. And it's a matter of sifting through that and say, well, what resonates with my heart? A lot of people are making big changes in their life because it's at the point where it's like, no, it's time to do what I desire to do. Self-oriented is very much like the
Yes.
fire horse energy. Yeah.
Well, so part of the series that I created too, it talks about 25 being a 9 year was all about we and collective. And we saw a lot of things going on with the collective government shifts, structural shifts, community explosions, things like that. And then we move into this year, which is one. So we went from we to me. And I was cautioning people in the things that I've been saying and the things I've been writing is we are allowed to take care of ourselves first, the oxygen mask on us first. But a lot of people, when they say, oh,
Mhm.
you're moving from we to me or I, they resonate with selfishness or define that as selfishness. So I would just say to everybody,
Right.
what Lisa's talking about, we cannot access even our heart chakra, but for sure, the upper chakras from the heart, the throat being one of them, intuition being another, and the crown, which is connection to things we can't see and from ourselves to others. If we have imbalances in the lower chakras, they're going to
Mhm.
prevent and restrict the flow of us being able to actually speak with our authentic self to attract what you just said, which is be mindful of your intentions and be intentional with your words and what you're creating. But if we don't
Mhm.
believe we have value ourselves or what we're creating matters, then we won't be able to speak that truth. And so that's what I
Right.
help people do is, just what you said, we are meant to be rewiring, restructuring,
Hmm.
reprogramming ourselves so that we move forward out of this gate at the pace that works for us, but also with that intentionality that we design. But a lot of us wait to be
Hmm.
told how to behave or what to believe, what to think, what to say. And so it's really
Hmm.
hard for people to take advantage of this
Hmm.
amazing time we're in because we're
Right.
meant to.
I couldn't agree more. And the joke with in astrology, the joke with Aries is it gets tagged as being selfish, but you can't be selfish if nothing else exists because Aries is here to learn to rely upon itself, to figure itself out, to put its needs first, which doesn't mean that you have to be mean spirited or, harsh with other people. But if you stand in your authority, your inner authority, bringing in Saturn, then and put on that gas mask first, then
Mhm.
you're actually not only loving yourself, but you're loving everyone else. And I think if we were all able to be authentic, individuated people as an individual in a collective society, that's when it's balanced.
Yeah. And that's where I hope we're heading anyway.
Yeah, there's a lot with collective energy.
Yeah. So I know the other part to your expertise is the family. I always get it wrong. Family
Oh, family
constellation.
constellations. Yes.
Oh, got it
Hmm.
right. And so has that been kicking up for you in terms of how you're connecting this transit and this period of time? And I don't want to get you off track. We touched on the 17th. You started talking about the 20th, and maybe that's where we just need to leave this for this now. But there's other things happening soon after that. So is there anything you'd like to layer onto this with your other hat?
Yeah, with my other hat, I think what I would say with related to this energy is that we're all part of a family system, back to the collective, right? And so it's a great time to get very clear on the patterns that are not working well in your life or patterns that you've tried to shift in other ways that haven't shifted because we could be being influenced by generational patterns that
Mm,
maybe we came in to kind of highlight and heal by again focusing on what is not flowing well in your life. You definitely have an impact on your family system. And I think, calling in ancestral support, I've mentioned that before, is a big thing to do, not just calling in, the angels or the archangels or God or Mary or whoever. Call on the actual people in your system. I think that's really significant because when you do your own healing, the Lakota tradition believes that the healing goes back 7 generations and forward 7 generations. So I don't know if there's like a transit I would directly relate to it.
No,
It's
you touched
just,
on exactly what I was hoping to hear from you in terms of taking charge of our own healing and our own inner understanding helps
mm,
us behave outwardly, not just towards others, but when we have a clearer lens from which we're operating our bodies, then we see the external through that clearer lens. It's like rose colored glasses or clarity. And again, like if you're not taught or trained how to remove those rose colored glasses, then you're going to see life through a certain lens that might not have even been anything you chose to wear or see through, but we're meant
right.
to take those. It's like going to the eye doctor. Things have been a little blurry. Where did those glasses come
Mm-hmm.
from? My grandma, my
Mm-hmm.
whoever. Thank you for your service, grandma.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take these glasses off, try on these new ones and see how they feel. So that,
Right.
like you said, clearing out the past and making way for the future, it starts with
Yes.
us. And that's everybody that I hear from, including you. We've chosen to be here during this crazy and amazing time because we
Yeah.
are the change makers. And I would say we're the pace setters, talking back to the horse. Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I would definitely agree with that. If you think about, I'm going to go back to this Saturn Neptune conjunction. So Neptune was in its own sign of Pisces. It was very comfortable there, right? And you can get kind of caught in where you want to escape and your addictions and just the soup, the spiritual soup you want to bypass and not take accountability for things. So it moved to that Aries energy, and it's not necessarily Neptune and Saturn are not necessarily that comfortable in Aries, but it is about Neptune and Pisces would have the rose colored glasses on. And Aries is like, no, we have to take them off because you need to see the reality of what is in front of you. It is very much a year of, it's like the Great Reset. Now, individually, points are world points. Like the last time that Saturn and Neptune came together exactly at that point was 1989 in the sign of Capricorn. That's when the Berlin Wall fell. We can actually go back. The last time we had this energy was in a different sign, but it was 1989. So what was going on back then for you? It gives you, it's kind of nice to look back at cycles to see if you can make any correlations. That was in an
Shoulder
earth
pads.
sign.
Shoulder pads and stirrup pants were going on for me in
Shoulder
1980.
pads. God, I hope shoulder pads never come back. A good
Shoulder
look for
pads,
anybody.
stirrup pants, little booties, great music. I think I had a modified mullet of kinds. I had shaved hair right here, and I had bangs and
Yeah,
oh, the whole thing. I mean, teaching
yeah,
aerobics with the butt floss and the scrunchy socks, that was so it was fun. But yeah, a lot of things
yeah,
happen. And
yeah,
and that's what,
yeah.
that's what we've been talking about also is the last time a lot of these transits were happening. We just came through a huge one where the last time that happened, it was Civil War. I can't remember what that
Exactly.
transit was.
That was a Saturn Neptune conjunction. Probably just
So,
hearing a lot about that. Yeah, a lot of people are talking about it.
and so we're different people than they were
Hmm.
then. And although there seems
Hmm.
to be civil discord, and there is, we are awake in a way now that they may or may not have been then, but all we can say is we are here now and we are meant to harness this energy and have it
Yeah.
work for us as individuals, but also us as a collective through our individual work.
Yeah, and you probably heard the whole two Earths and there being a split. I think it's really important. Aries and ruled by Mars, it's the masculine energy, targeted action, but it's a lot about being courageous. And so sometimes we have to really step through fear
Mhm.
and not let fear define us and take a risk and go forward. And even if, this is a great time that you're laying the beginning, so you may not get it right out the gate, and that's fine.
Mhm.
It's doesn't have to stay that way, but it's forward movement at whatever gate, GAIT, that you desire. I think is so important to not let fear paralyze you, not let old past patterns that no longer serve you. It's time to transcend them and move forward and kind of pick a lane.
Or
You can
several.
always change. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a creation energy. What do you want to create? And if you start creating one thing and it doesn't serve you, then just go, okay, I can create something new. And I think it's important too to just see what shows up in your life and see if that's something that appears and you want to say yes to it, say yes to it.
Mhm. Uh, there's a great song coming to me by Dan Fogelberg called Changing Horses. Because I was just having this image of
Ah.
we're on one horse and we have every opportunity not just to change course, but we can get to a different horse. And the line goes, changing horses in the middle of a stream gets you wet and sometimes cold. But just what you said about fear,
Mm-hmm.
if we're unwilling to change the horse, even if we get wet, even if we could get cold or lost, and just stubbornly and pigheadedly stay on that course just because that's what we chose. And listen, I have a son who's an Aries. I have some friends who are Aries, and I had an unfortunate misunderstanding with one of them because, in my mind, to the positive, although I didn't explain this adequately at the time, I know because I'm a Gemini. So I lack sometimes that, put the blinders on and stay the course. And I marvel
Yeah,
at my son's ingenuity. Impulsivity can work for and against. But I find Aries
right.
people who really get to chew on a thought or really stick to it. Some people say that's stubborn. I find that very focused and amazing. But again, like sometimes they are a little pig-headed and they don't want to change horses or change their minds, but only they can figure that out for themselves. I don't like
Mhm.
to generalize, but we all generalize zodiacs. Like Geminis are flighty and they're gregarious, they're communicative, and Libra's all about,
Yeah.
justice and blah blah blah. Aries to me, they're like pig-headed rams, but that's not a bad thing.
So I think the beauty of being living in the information age is that there's so many videos that you can watch about anything in astrology or so many metaphysical topics. I think it's a great idea to listen to what's out there and take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Because there's a lot of good information about just the key of the archetype and putting them together. And then always putting it directly in your chart, which
Mm.
is interesting because I pulled your chart if you want to
Oh,
talk
oh,
about
good.
this for a minute. And I do this intentionally and also to provide larger context. We have a lot, and it goes back to the new beginnings of this year and what we want to create because the older planets, and what I mean by that, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, they are changing signs and they all move very slowly. So Pluto is already in Aquarius and Uranus is going into Gemini and Neptune is going into Aries. They're new beginnings. So if you have points in your chart that are at like the 0 to 3 degrees, the conversation is going to get activated in your
Mm.
chart. And so take what you hear on these videos and you know, uh, run your chart or speak to somebody like me who can explain like how this applies to your chart because your Saturn is at 0 degrees of Aries.
My Saturn is at zero.
Your Saturn. Yeah, your natal Saturn
Okay.
is at 0 degrees of Aries. So this conjunction is really hitting you
Yes.
activating. It's not like trying to punch you out, but I always say hitting because I
Mhm.
get excited by these transits because I was always taught, they're windows of opportunity. And what do you want to create with it? What do you want that to be? You can create whatever you want to create, work with the energies. So
Mm.
Saturn is work and duty and responsibility, but new structures. And it's right next to the North Node, the direction your life is going. So this is really personally impacting you as much as it's impacting the collective.
And is it in a specific house or just in general?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. In the 12th house. Now that's Neptune's natural domain. That's spirituality. That's energy work. That would be probably the whole chakra system because we're looking at the different energy centers,
Yeah.
spirituality, creativity, dreams, subconscious. So that just means that it's amplified for you because it's
Mm.
a one-to-one connection. When a conjunction in astrology, it's like that's when they're together, exactly together. So they're having a very powerful activation or spark at that point.
Yeah. Okay. And so how do I ride that horse?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And again, Saturn is it likes to move at a slower pace. That's why it's not really that comfortable in Aries because Aries is like, "Oh, I want it. Let's do it." I would say that it would be very much about getting in tune with the direction that you want your work to flow and to go. And so it's one thing to have the intention, right? But then the only way that this moves forward is you can't just say, "Oh, I desire this and I come to me." Right? So
Right.
you have to take the actions. So take the targeted actions and see if you attract in a response or see what you attract in as the response. And that will give you an idea of, okay, this can flow, this can come together right now, or maybe I'm setting the intention so that it manifests in divine timing.
Mm.
So that's the thing that Aries has a hard time with is surrender because it just
Yeah.
wants to charge forward and get with it. So I think for you specifically and everybody on February 20th, it's just to have in your mind, what is your intention about what you are desiring in your life? What do you want to create? Now, there's a lot of different possibilities out there in every moment. Try to align to the possibility that you want. Get your frequency, get your vibration to that point. Clear, having that clear chakra system is incredible.
Yeah. And, you were the one, I think our first reading that you did for me, you reminded me that I'm meant to be collaborating. And that was a hard thing to understand at the time because I kept looking for actual physical collaborations with others. And I still am, and I do. Mostly, it's my connection to spirituality, my connection to divine timing,
Of
and
course.
surrendering and trusting in that collaboration, which is hard for intelligent people or anybody who likes to see the cold, hard facts that this is actually working. And it's very difficult and uncomfortable for some to just, for me personally, to wait for that divine timing.
Yeah.
But it does.
Right.
And so that's been a stretch, is to really just surrender and trust. I mean, I always trust. But when I find myself ready to gallop, I'm reminded that this time, specifically for me, because you've told me this too, is that Saturn is such a slow moving planet. I like a fast horse. Sometimes it's scary, but I'm really kind of need to start with a donkey and just take in the scenery and move at a pace that, isn't something I'm used to. Cause I'm like Ricochet Rabbit, Speedy Gonzalez, let me go and let me go
Mhm.
fast.
Right.
A reminder to slow down is really what I've been hearing a lot too, just for everybody. We're in so much fear outside of ourselves, and we can just, turn on the news, turn off the news. You can read the paper, don't read the paper. You can feel there's a lot of wigging out going on because we don't know where to
Mhm.
turn for answers. And saying turn to yourself is really what we're talking about. But it doesn't mean
Mhm.
ignore everything else. It means really getting clear, like you said. What does align for me? What does
Mhm.
work for me? And what isn't working, I can release with gratitude. And what can I try and see if it works with gratitude and then continue on, keep on keeping on kind of thing.
Yeah, I think like the 3 A's, take action, acknowledge what shows up, and and it's a lot about acceptance of what shows up as well.
Mm.
And I think a really good way to combine these 2 with surrender and action is if you have a spiritual practice that I think it's really helpful to when you wake up and before you go to sleep, just kind of tune in back with yourself.
Mm.
So I'll spend before I even get out of bed like 10, 15 minutes with myself and just what's going on before my monkey mind gets going, just what's dropping into my awareness and how can I use that to set the tone for the day. And then before entering that state of dream, just tuning in and getting real clear and setting your intentions even for what you want to see in your dreams, or say set an intention, I want to go to the astral plane, and just like what do I need to do the next day, have awareness drop in. So I think that's a really good way to get in the flow
Mhm.
of maybe what your soul is desiring, and then you take conscious action during your waking moment.
Yeah. And one way I know I tell my clients, and I've told listeners too, is, and you know this, our bodies are the best barometers. And
Absolutely.
one of the best ways we can check in is, are we able to take a deep breath? And if you're in a situation or thinking about, like, you're setting intentions, let's say, and something inside you creates a cringe or you're unable to take a deep breath, ask again, is this intention for me or for me now? Is this my highest vibration, this intention, whatever it is? And see if you can take a deep breath. And if you can't, then
Mhm.
it might not be for you at all, or it might not be for you now. But find and I know we get so caught up, for the plus and the minus, in that forward momentum and that wanting to do and have and give, that we forget to pause and take those breaths and check in, whether it's first thing in the morning and
Mhm.
before you go to bed, but throughout the day, intentionally pausing to check in with your barometer. Am I in alignment or not? And for me, breath
Yeah.
is one of those tells. Do you have a practice that is your tell? Like, how do you tell if you're going in a direction that doesn't serve you?
Yeah, no, I agree with the breath. There's a book, The Body Keeps the Score. For me, it's like if I feel constricted or I start, my moon's in Aries, that's the stomach. So if my stomach starts getting a little off, then I will either set another boundary, or that's a great time to tune in and say, is this for me or not? I think we're getting really in touch. Our body is a great barometer in general, but the breath specifically, because the breath can feel constricted when the body doesn't feel right. And it might be that, that's not serving you anymore. Not that there's anything wrong with it. It's just it might have been great at one point in your life. That pattern or that person or that job or whatever it is, what you're eating, there's a number of ways that it applies in your life. It just may be something that needs to either be released or shifted. Saturn is a lot about structure, but you can restructure something too.
Mm.
If you can restructure it, it might be vital again.
Yeah.
So that's the part where in that final shedding, or in the real final stages of the wood snake shedding, what isn't working and stepping into the new.
And what is? What are we meant to keep carrying? So we want to lose the saddlebags so
Exactly.
we have a smooth ride, but not everything is meant
Hmm.
to be released. We need to keep some things. And so only we get to decide what
Yeah.
those things are. And so, is there anything else
Yeah.
before we end our time together you want to explain or highlight?
Yeah, there were. I want to give you some time periods. There are 3 Mercury retrogrades this year. They're all in water signs. Now, I don't really pay that much attention to Mercury retrogrades. However, retrograde times are always a time to go back and redo, whatever it is, relearn, redo. Those dates are going to be February 26th through March 20th, and that's in Pisces. And then there's going to be one June 29th through July 3rd in Cancer, and then October 24th through November 13th in Scorpio. I also want to highlight that between March 21st and May 5th, no planets will be retrograde. So that's a really great time for accelerated forward motion. And
And
that's
is
like the
this,
spring equinox.
yeah, is there a significance in terms of retrogrades being in a water sign versus another kind of sign that people might want to understand?
Yeah. So the water signs are all about emotion, our emotional patterns, creativity, intuition. It's a great time to maybe enhance your yoga practice or qigong, or something that is related to like that watery element. Can be a great time to cleanse, where our bodies are really made of so much water, right? It's going to be a good time to do a cleanse. So it's just interesting that they're all in water signs. Emotional patterns, working on emotional patterns is a good thing to do. Really tuning inward, I think.
Okay. There's so many
Mhm.
huge things happening this year
Really
astrologically,
are. There's so many things. So yeah,
cosmically.
I mean, for real, it's a very accelerated year. I recommend for people, astrology can seem like a lot and it's a big rabbit hole, but if you just know what the archetypes are, so that when you hear about the collective energies, just take the key phrases from each of the archetypes and put them together. And then say, okay, where do I have that in my chart? So your chart is your owner's manual, right? It's the closest thing you're ever going to get. Everyone and everything is in there and you can pull that out. So it's just like, it was great to connect it to your chart, because
Yeah.
this transit is like so personally impacting you.
Yeah, I feel
So
it.
when
I'm excited. Yeah. And I love, listen, Lisa's way of reading charts is so accessible. There's people that I listen to that I've listened to for years, and they get very technical with the degrees of this and that and the other thing. And unless I've memorized my chart, I really don't remember or whatever. But the way you describe is very user friendly. And so, for anybody out there who's never had a chart read or is interested in having his or her chart read, I'm definitely linking all of your stuff in the show notes as I do. But the constellation therapy, in terms of these retrogrades, retrograde, RE, so anything with the RE, you already touched on so many REs, but the way we can restructure, rewrite, reprogram has a lot to do with
Mhm.
going back in our lineage, our programming that we came into the planet with that was no fault or permission of our own. It just is patterns that we received that we're meant to understand and then release or carry on. And without that understanding, it's harder, I feel like, to do a rewrite, a reset, a reframe, and remove. And And the thing is, too, I want to caution everybody, like I started with, this is an explanation. If you're interested in getting in touch with your chart or finding familiar patterns because you want to start blaming and shaming, whether it's yourself or others or your family, really get in touch with that lens and clear that out first because you want to receive this information with an open heart, an open mind, curiosity, and bravery. Because the stuff that we learn about ourselves isn't always so pretty, but we need to look at it
Right.
anyway. And so I just kind of wanted to offer that. But the way you offer everything is with that loving heart. And so I really am so
Oh,
grateful for that within you. So
no.
tell everybody
Mm.
what else is up with you and how to find you and what you're doing.
Okay, let's see. So my website is futureecho.org and Lisa at futureecho.org. You can email me. Well, also, maybe I'll come back and talk about this. I'm becoming certified in the dwarf planet, which are higher octaves of the planets, but specifically Pluto, which is my favorite energy out there. So it's really interesting because they're still being discovered. And I think it's because collective consciousness is shifting. Like you said, we're not the same anymore. And so we're making these new discoveries. So when you invite them in, they really start working with you on your consciousness. And that is, to me, a lot about we're here as humans, right? Our personality, but we all have a soul, right? And so the dwarf planets really connect you more into soul purpose. And once you start having the awareness and you see that, I think you're just able to step into soul purpose more intentionally. And it's been eye opening, jaw dropping. Some of the things I've learned about myself just
Wow.
by their placement.
I've
That would
never
be fun.
heard that. That's a fascinating layer.
Yeah. Well,
You're always
Siri.
learning something new.
Oh, astrology is like you can keep going, right? So, well, you probably series, right? Series is,
Mm.
so they're octaves of Pluto, but they kind of go between Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, but they're higher octaves of, say, Mercury or Venus, or like you can stack these energies on top of each other. It's just a different energy of
Mm.
Mercury or Saturn. I've been always about consciousness and quantum, physics and things like that. So it's great to have some new archetypes to add in that we're not working with the personal planets anymore, but it's the spectrum, I guess, of energy.
It's a
Oh,
symphony, right?
it's
You keep
really
saying
fun.
octave, and I'm hearing music. I'm hearing like, planets do have a frequency. And then when you add
Yeah.
in their dwarf planets, it sounds to me like it amplifies the frequency. You can work with different music that the planet's able to produce for you personally, is what I'm hearing. And so that's amazing. That's so cool. I'm going to have a reading with you on that now.
It's,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really fascinating. They move really, really slow, but it will explain a lot when they're connecting with something one to one in your chart. You're like, "Oh, like I figured out my whole life based on Exion." And I was like, "Oh my god, now my life makes so much more sense." It's just fun. I
Well,
there's always
it
something.
connects with, the noodles on the wall. So some people
Mhm.
love astrology. That's the lane they're going to stick with, the noodle they're going to use because that's what they're used to or they like it, they understand it. Human design comes to mind as another layer. When you talk
Yeah.
about soul purpose and soul plan, Akashic records come into play. But not
Mhm.
everybody is able to access them or understand even the information in a reading. But if you connect with planets and points and things like that, it sounds to me like dabbling in the dwarf planets might be the right fit for you if you're into that. And it's ways to access information that's available through the people whom we trust who are plugged in, tapped in, and gaining their expertise and training in those things. And just like we talked about, you can change horses. You can use astrology and ride that and see how that
Mhm.
works for you. And you can switch the horse and say, I'm going to get into Akashic Records now and see if my life still makes sense on that horse.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
yeah.
I
So I
did that
love
with
that.
tarot. Yeah, tarot to
Yeah.
me too is great because that I know astrology is very left brain in a way. So adding in like I don't know much about the chakra system. I'm learning more about that. Or tarot, it just opens up that right side of your brain and then works well together.
So, all right. Well,
Mhm.
thank you so much for helping everybody understand these next couple major transits. So, February 17th sounds like a major one, and then the 20th for
Major.
sure. Yeah. And
Hmm.
anybody else that's interested in major transits of their own in their own chart, reach out to Lisa. And thank you so much for joining me again. I love having you.
Thank you. Thank you. I love being here.
Okay.
Thanks.